Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. We are here in the superhero sanctum because we don't get to travel much, so at least we get to feel we're traveling. But as we're here, we're traveling with James Snow. He is an Army veteran that turned his life around fiscally and now helps out military and veterans with their finances from the bedroom to the boardroom. It so fits. So why not bring him on as a guest and to have him bring his wisdom, his knowledge, and for you guys to go over and thrive instead of just figuring out and survive. So I'm going to bring James in and we're going to get this party started. Hey, James, thanks for joining. Do I have you, James?
Yeah, a little bit of lag, but I'm here.
All right, cool. Sorry about that. That's the world. We're streaming in 7 locations. That's probably the reason why the lag.
No worries.
All right. So let's get to one of our first questions. So with money, as military veterans, we kind of naturally negatively associate with money, but why do you think we negatively associate with money?
I think part of it is kind of our upbringing, quite frankly. Excuse me, because we've been taught certain things by people that maybe were not successful, and so they're just basically regurgitating the same information that they've been told by someone else who likewise was not successful, and so they're just basically passing that same what I call water cooler advice, and over the years even our previous employers, our teachers, unfortunately a lot of times family members. So we have family members that give us the same advice about money and finance. And so we're basically, you could say, preconditioned in a sense to sort of look at it the wrong way, because it really is a tool, and we're just going at it, really kind of backwards, you might say.
That's interesting. So sounds like it initially comes from the bedroom and then we pour it into the living room and pour it out into the boardroom. So since the bedroom is going to be the first place it comes out, and we give it to our children or the people that live with us and whatnot, and then we pour it into the workplace, probably not so much because money is taboo. How do we tame that beast, especially in our intimate relationships, because it's going to affect everything else?
One of the best ways, because unfortunately we know that that finance and money is really the number one cause of divorce and separations within couples, and so it's what I refer to as financial infidelity. You've got to talk about it. Granted, you can have separate bank accounts, but ultimately, I really advise having a singular base account, and then your extras you can have separates. But when it comes to your household budget, it really it is more advantageous to have it in one place and then talk about it. Don't avoid the conversation just because it's uncomfortable. Have that conversation. Talk about it. When you have children, bring them into the conversation. I even encourage having like a whiteboard or a blackboard, in a common area, your dining room, your den, the kitchen, somewhere where you all gather as a family and talk about those things, because even the children have a vested interest in what's going on with the finances. Whether it be t-ball, baseball, football, band, dance, what have you. The children have a vested interest in what the household budget is, and so involve everyone in it and just talk about it openly. Don't look at it as as you mentioned, taboo. Have that conversation and talk about it.
And that's really good in that regard, which goes in really good in that regard. Wow, I sluttered that word. And it goes into our next question. What lessons should I share in the living room to break this stigma? Because the good thing now, I know COVID, there's a lot of bad things, but the good thing now is we have a lot more living room time in this specific regard. And it's something now we can bring to the table. So what lessons should we give them now? Because we don't know if the school rooms are going to go take over afterwards, and that might be years to come. So what lessons could we share now to break the stigma?
Well, one of the things that I really enjoy doing with my family clients, those who have children especially, is there are some money games that you can involve with the children to give them education. But parents need to be educated properly on what finances are, what money is, how to use it, and really how to make it work for you. That's going to be one of the key tenets, is instead of working for your money, is have your money work for you. And then raising your children, from the ground up, knowing that, because unfortunately they are not going to hear about this, in the classroom. They're not going to learn about it at school the proper way. They're learning some bits, but even, as you and I grew up, the things that we were taught about money and, and economics, they're not teaching the same way now. It's very minimal. And so there really is a lot that they need to learn about, for example, taxes, investing, how to start a business, how to use that business, make it work for you, and make your money work. Give your money a job so that you don't have to have that job.
That's really wise stuff to go over and to bring to the table. And with that, I know a lot of times is that we as parents or as people in general, we have some type of lie. We figure out maybe when we're 18, we get out of the house, or maybe when we're 87 and we're about to be on our deathbed. It's something that clicks. What do you think is the biggest lie we believe as a culture about money?
No, that money is evil. Money, especially those of faith, like myself, we're raised, we hear the scripture, money is the root of all evil, but in fact, it's the love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. Money is a tool. And so it's knowing how to use money and finances really to give you that edge, because we are stewards of everything that we receive in life. And so we should use it the same way, instead of holding on to it, having this approach, have this approach, we should be able to give as much as possible and to use it freely, because like I say, we're stewards of what we receive. And so that probably is the biggest lie, is that, it's mine. And really it's not. When you're gone, you're taking absolutely none of it with you. And so it really should be about building a legacy as opposed to, just trying to make a living.
I'd like to expand that on a little bit on this question. That is like, I know a lot of veterans, especially as entrepreneurs, we have like 14,500 in the Vetpreneur tribe and other places and whatnot. And we have this reason to have rich. We want to be rich, but sometimes it's not happening. Do you have tactics for me or the audience to go over and break these roadblocks regarding money? Because we think we can get there and it's like, it's not happening.
Sure. There's obviously some tactics there. But when I'm kind of looking at your question, I want to be rich, but it's not happening. You're looking at the finish line rather than the progress. It should be more progress oriented instead of trying to focus on the end result. You help enough people and you're going to get there. You do enough of the baby steps to go along, and then you're going to get there. So really it's more about understanding how to use the money instead of trying to focus as much on getting to the end goal. So that also is going to be one of the roadblocks. It is going to be changing your mindset a bit there, because it's looking at it with a scarcity mindset, the way most people do it, rather than abundance mindset. And so when we're receiving things, just as I mentioned, being a steward is, you're a steward of these things. So you're really looking for opportunities to help other people, and especially in business, you help enough people, and those people are going to come back to you. It's a synergistic circle, and so you help enough people, and then you're going to be okay. So stop worrying about making that deal as much as, let me help this other person, and they're going to bring me people.
That's a good reminder for myself. I remember this. Sometimes I get into deals. Like I have a couple right now, and I'm like, if this closes, like, no, I'm like, if I got to let that go, and it might take weeks, it might take months, but I can serve other people when that deal is quote unquote waiting, and that could synergistically change. And then maybe it's a bunch of little people in a sense helping, and then you get the big fish. So that's a good reminder in that.
Sure.
So going from there, so how do we go over and stay balanced? So we want to thrive fiscally, but how to go over and stay engaged in the home? Because can we go over and be wealthy fiscally and relationally at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when you're not focusing so much on finances and what maybe you don't have, you're gonna have a better relationship with your spouse, with your children, with your brothers, sisters, friends. All those things are going to really fix themselves when you're not focusing so much on on the money and having the finances. So it really is a good way of being balanced. Likewise, so many people they just keep their nose to the grindstone constantly. And one thing I encourage people is, take breaks away from it every once in a while, throughout the day, maybe, take 15, 30 minutes, an hour, if you have to, go away, recharge, re-energize, go back to it. Because if you're burned up, you have nothing to take back home. And so, it's really keeping the right order of things, the work-life balance, if you will, it's keeping that focus, in its proper proportions. Because there was an analogy that I really love is three business partners. They go into business, and one of these business partners, he just works constantly, 14, 16, 18 hours a day, and really never spends any time at home. The second guy, spends some time at home, but he's probably 10 hours a day. The third guy, he's working 4 hours to 6 hours a day. And they're sitting at the graveside of the first guy that spent all of these hours, and then he dies at a young age. The second gentleman asked the third one, so how much do you think he left behind out of all the money that he made? And the third guy looks at him and said, well, what do you mean? He left all of it. And that really is a good lesson for work-life balance is, unless you set it up, as a legacy strategy to pass to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, as recommended in scripture, then, you're going to be leaving all of it. And unfortunately, state and federal government's going to get it if you don't take care of things the right way. So, being wise fiscally and relationally, focus on what really matters because, time is fleeting, family is not. Pay attention to your family. The finances will resolve themselves as long as you're doing the right steps.
That's really cool. It reminded me of the Ebenezer Scrooge story, and you watch the different versions and it's like everything left when they did the. That's really cool. That was a good refresher. We're getting towards Christmas anyway, so let's remember those lessons.
Yeah.
So our last one that we ask on a regular basis is we'd like to hear 3 superhero money tactics this time to thrive from the bedroom to the boardroom. So if you had maybe 2 to 5 minutes with somebody and you just have to give them 3 quick tactics for them to thrive holistically, what would you give them?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I would say, when you're first starting out, take care of the family budget first and include the family in it. That's a big one because so many people think, well, my husband or my wife or what have you, they handle the finances. That's the wrong answer. You should both be involved in it. Maybe one person, fills out the bills, so forth. But, you should all be involved in it. It shouldn't be just a one person, this person does that. And then you're completely ignorant of what's going on because, financial illiteracy is not really a helpful thing, in either the bedroom or the boardroom. And so, be involved, be educated about it and, at least know what's going on and have an input in it. The second thing is rather than looking for, what some people think is the sexy thing, how do I invest? Or, where do I put my money? Do I get stocks, bonds, mutual funds, fill in the blank? That shouldn't be the first conversation you're having. The first conversation you should be having is how do I protect my assets? How do I protect my family? And what happens if? Let me take care of those things first. Because if you hedge the whole situation, like right now, we have this coronavirus thing going on. We have this pandemic. So many people have been, stay-at-home orders. They're not able to work. Have you been paying your bills? You have to have that hedge against the unknown in order to be successful and to be able to thrive. And so if you take care of those things early, then you have something to fall back on. That later when you get to retirement is also going to be your fallback position because, we look back to 2008, we had that crash. If people had a hedge, instead of pulling from their retirement, they reach over into this other bucket and they're able to reach into it until the market corrects itself. Then you switch gears again. So you're moving your pieces around the chessboard and you're able to do things the correct way. So, do things in the right order, take care of the financial home, if you will, get all of your protection things first before you start looking at, where can I put my money because I might lose it. Think about investing as if I lose this money, I don't need it because I've got something else going on that I can fall back on. So just always make sure you have that hedge behind you. That really is the biggest secret to wealth. If you look at people who are very wealthy, they've got that hedge thing down. They have something to fall back on down pat. And, there's many ways of going at it. So it's just a matter of, educating yourself, speak to your financial professional a lot, let them educate you on it. If they're not educating you, you've got the wrong guy. If you're not talking to them at least 2 or 3 times a year, you don't have a guy. You should have a very intimate relationship, with your financial professional. You want to buy a car, talk to that guy, see if it's smart. You want to change houses, talk to that guy, see if it's smart. And that kind of goes into the third thing is, just make sure that you have that circle of professionals around you. Not only your finance professional, like with what I do, but, having a good relationship with a CPA to make sure that things are done correctly. There's always ways that you can squirrel away money the correct way, the right way, the legal way. Have a good relationship with them. And if you have a business attorney. That's your third guy. It's what I call the 3-legged stool of business is having a good relationship with someone that can take care of the business matters, not only, your taxes and your financial plan, but that business plan side of it. Have all three of them and make sure that all three of them are communicating together when you meet with them, because that way, when you move one piece, the other two guys know what's going on.
Man, it's like I'm absorbing this all in my mind, and I'm like, hopefully our audience is turning just as my end, because I'm still turning on that hedge thing. I'm like, but we'll expand on that another time. That's just a whole lesson in itself about that hedge, send that up. So I'd love to go over and to hear more about how you go. You can go for it. Sorry about that.
I didn't hear all of your question there.
No, I said.
I was just going to say on that hedge thing. Okay. Now with the thing I was talking about, having that hedge, part of the education is, with people that through their job, they have benefits through their company. You need to understand how that stuff works, because so many people think, okay, well, I've got medical insurance covered, I'm good. I have, maybe a disability plan if you're lucky, I'm good. I have, health savings account, flexible spending account. I have a 401k, I'm good. No, you're not. Maybe on the medical insurance side, but everything else, no, because those things only do so much. It gets you kind of to here, but it's not getting you all the way over here. They only do so much. And so one of the keys there is thinking of, when I want to take care of my family, if something happens to me tomorrow and, maybe I'm too sick or too injured to work, how am I going to keep the house? How's the roof going to stay over my head? And so make sure you've got that covered. Typically when you have something through work in that area, it's going to be something that, you're getting only a certain percentage of your income, and that's after taxes. And so you want to make sure you fill that gap. And so, don't just depend on one little piece of it. Talk to your financial professional, have them look it over so that you make sure you get as much of that income protection covered. But also, it's the ugly topic of life insurance. That, a lot of companies will give you some, but it's not nearly enough. You should have probably 10 to 15 times your annual income worth of life insurance. We that were in the military, we've got, from our military service, we had probably 200,000, officers had 400,000. If you're making, let's use a round figure of 100,000 a year, you make 100K a year, you should have 1.5 million sitting in life insurance, not 200,000 or 400,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I see your expression there. One way you kind of look at it, I say this kind of jokingly, but also seriously, is do you want your wife to have to get remarried to keep the house? Or would you prefer her to mourn you for the rest of her life and remember the good times because she still has the house? It really boils down to just like that. It's when I talk to people, do you love your spouse? Because this is the ultimate way of saying I love you, is making sure that, they don't have to worry about how am I keeping the home and be able to keep the kids protected. We're able to take care of this so that, if they need to stay home with the children, they can. You've got that covered. They've got 10 to 15 years worth of preparation set aside. And then, you can invest that money and be able to grow it so that, they're able to do what they need to do. The kids can go to college. The kids can do whatever they need to do, stay in sports. If you have a daughter and you want to set up something so that when she gets married, you can pay for that wedding, you're able to do those things. You're able to tie all the knots up and make sure that when you're finished, here on earth, you're able to take care of all the things that you wished you could have when you're not here to do it.
Yeah, that's a mind blow on that one. I have 400K and now I feel like I don't have enough. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, typically about 1.5 is the average that I recommend to people. If you're making more, then you need more. If your home, your mortgage is say 300,000 to 500,000 and you only have 400K for it, where's that mortgage getting paid from? Because your income just disappeared. Now you have one person in the household trying to make that mortgage payment rather than two people.
Yeah, that is a drastic difference. So maybe that's why 2008 was such a big crash.
Yeah. And that's why so many people now, I mean, they're, with this pandemic, they're losing homes, they're losing their businesses because they didn't have some of that stuff set aside. Even with your business, you should have those things. It goes into the exit planning and your succession plan, that people with businesses should be doing, because when you're not at the helm running your business, then, who's going to run it? Are you passing it to your children? Do they want to run that business? Are you passing it over to a partner? Your spouse still needs the income. So now you're drawing two incomes when you're not at that desk. And so can your business afford two CEO incomes? So you have to look at that. If, even some of your key personnel, if you lose that top engineer with your company, how are you going to be able to pay to replace them while taking care of their family? Because you need to do what's right for them too. So you have those two salaries to think about. So it's really looking at all those moving pieces and making sure that you plug all the holes. Kind of like the cartoons with the dam, and it has 10 different holes, and you got that guy trying to plug all these different holes with their fingers. Eventually, you run out of fingers. And it's still going to be leaking. You don't want your business to be leaking money.
Man, I'm so churning in that regard. That is such amazing wisdom. And hoping the audience is going over and grabbing this. It's like, he is like, you got it from the bedroom to the boardroom and beyond. I'm like, I would have to add a new tagline to my show. That's really cool. I definitely have to bring you on again during the leadership.
Sure. I mean, people when they're at work, they think, I can leave the job when I punch out and I go home and I can leave it there. No, you can't. So few people can just leave it there. Especially if you're a business owner, you should inject your personality, your belief systems, your values. Those things should be both part of your business and your home life. There shouldn't be a differentiation between the two of them, because who you are should be the same in both places. And so when you leave the job, you're bringing that home. And so those things that you're doing at the office, with your company, whatever type business you have, those things are going to affect your family. You may think, well, that's business, this is personal. What happens at work is going to affect you at home. And so when you take care of all these things the correct way, you make sure that you've dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, then your home life is going to be so much better because you don't have that stress. And really, as our friend Steven says, it's about quality of life. You take care of that business part of it. You're not thinking about it at home because you've already done that. Let somebody like me lose their hair. You don't need to. Keep that thick, luxurious hair that you got. Let somebody else go bald, and take care of what you need to take care of, because your responsibilities, number one, is your spouse. Number two is your children. And so, faith, family, finance. It's in that order. That's how I work business. That's how everybody should work business.
That's really cool. So love to hear what you go over and do at jsnow.us. If you can give us like a little tidbits on how you go help our military veterans before we close out.
Sure. Being a military veteran myself, I work with people just understanding first, what they've got available as their tools, what tools are in their tool belt. And that's going to be something that working with a prior military financial professional is going to be different than working with a civilian financial professional. So that's number one is, we already speak the same lingo. We understand what's going on in your world. And so understanding how to use those things, because you treat them different. There's certain things like your combat pay is going to be tax favored. How can we work with that? You have your TSP or a BRS. How can we work with that? And so it's understanding, all of the moving parts that you've got, how to blend that to the civilian world. And then in turn, how are we going to be able to make those things work for you? How can we take those assets, really be able to grow them for your family, focus on what your goals and dreams are? That's number one. It's always built around the person, their family, their vision. And so taking care of those things the right way, making sure that it is a fiduciary relationship that goes on, because it's always about what your needs are, not about the product so much. I don't necessarily talk, first 2 or 3 meetings, don't even talk about product. It's about how can we get you to where you want to be? What's that experience? And so that's really the important thing, is just speaking to a person, belly to belly, eye to eye, and understanding what they're wanting to achieve out of this. And then how can we get you there? And once we understand what you want to do, then it's a lot easier to figure out, so what are the tools that we're going to use to get there? Because what you, Daniel, need to get you to a certain spot, the next person, they may want to go to the same place, but their experience is different. And so what we use to get you there is going to be different. Everything is built around the person, not around the product.
That's really cool. So people can get in contact with you at jsnow.us. They can also find you on Facebook. Any other locations they can find you?
On Facebook, I have my personal account, James D. Snow. I also have my business account there for JAS, which is James Old English Fashion, James Advisors Group. I also have Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, All those have James Advisors Group the same way, jas.advisors.group, and group is GRP. I also have a Facebook group that you can go into where you can learn about things that I call FinCom, FINCOM. And that way we talk about the financial command things, through there. So, tips, tricks, techniques, I'll throw those in there for people to just glean some free knowledge. And then when you're ready to do something, then you have the contact details right there for you.
That's really awesome. So I want to thank you for going over and joining and just dropping so much wisdom. Like, my brain usually doesn't explode because I've learned a lot, and I'm like, I've learned a lot today. I'm not trying to brag. I just interact with so many people. Sometimes you go over and it's like, it's cool what you do, but it's like, I met you before, and I'm like, wow, every time we talk, it's like, so definitely everybody that's listening on Roku, on the Easy Way wall, on YouTube, and all the different platforms, please go over and glean off this wisdom. If you want to take James's message to go over and to bring it to the next level to our War Hero Superhero TV show, which is broadcasting in 15 locations and growing, all you have to do is give 3 seconds of your time. We want you to listen all 25 minutes and 58 seconds and continue, because you might have to listen to it 2 or 3 times. I'm going to have to. So, but if you can't go over and give that time, 3 seconds is a view. If he gets the most views in 3 days and it takes 3 seconds for a view, then he'll be uplifted to our War Hero Superhero TV show, which is broadcasted. So, James, I want to thank you for going and joining. I want to thank our guests for going over and listening. And any final words before we sign out?
Well, just, final words, take care of the family that you've got. They're a blessing. And, just make sure that, you don't leave anything, none of those bows are untied. Make sure that you take care of everything. Even if it's uncomfortable, take care of it now, because you don't get a redo on this one. So, when you're gone, you're gone. And so just make sure you take care of your family, take care of the business. Other people rely on that business because their families rely on them. So, just look at the things the right way, take care of it, suck it up, do it once, then you're done.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to go close out, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, brother.